Hi, everybody. Welcome back to episode 35 of In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I am Emma. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and a certified plant-based chef. And today is the day of the week that I invite you into my kitchen to talk about all things plant-based, delicious, healthy, nutritious, for recipe inspiration, healthy living tips, and more, hopefully. This week, we're going to be talking about cruciferous vegetables. We know that vegetables are good for us, but are there some vegetables that are better for us, potentially? Cruciferous vegetables, what I'm talking about, kale and broccoli and Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that. These are the superstars of the vegetable world, so much so that many plant-based doctors, including Dr. Greger and Dr. Furman, and so many others, recommend trying to get them in on a daily basis if you can. So these vegetables are loaded with fiber and nutrients that benefit our health in so many ways. They lower our risk of chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, even dementia. They're really helpful for our immune system because they are chock-a-block full of antioxidants and antimicrobial properties, and so much more. I could go on and on about the benefits of cruciferous vegetables, but today I want to share with you two of my favorite cruciferous side dishes, because lots of times the cruciferous can be the star of the show. They're wonderful to make the star of the show, but when you're trying to get them in every single day, it really helps to have a few like sort of go-to recipes that you can just make without thinking about it. Not too much fuss. They're really simple. They don't take a lot of special ingredients, and they're versatile as well. They can go with lots of different things. So we're going to do two of those dishes today, and I'm going to share some tips with you about how to prepare them, how to cook them, cruciferous vegetables in general, to get their optimal nutritional benefits, because there are some really key tips that are really good to know. Before we get started, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'm getting really good at mentioning this. It really helps them to reach more people, and it makes me feel really good to know that people are watching and appreciating the videos. Okay, let's get started. So first step, we are going to make a lightly steamed broccoli dish. Often when people make broccoli, I've had this many times, it is really, really overcooked. And not only does it, in my opinion, not taste as good because it gets mushy and it might get and soft instead of that really nice crunchy texture, but it also really depletes the nutrients in them. So you don't want to overcook your broccoli. We are going to lightly steam it today. And there are some really good reasons for doing that. We're also going to add a squeeze of lemon and lime, and we're going to add some toasted sesame seeds and some dulse flakes as well. And I'm going to explain the reason for adding all of those things as we go along. So first, I want to talk a little bit about, I have prepared my pot over there. It already has hot water in it. I've chopped up my broccoli, but I want to talk a little bit about this first. So lightly cooking your cruciferous vegetables is going to help make them more digestible. It can help reduce the gas and bloating that some people experience when they eat a lot of fiber-rich foods like cruciferous vegetables. And cruciferous vegetables also are sulfur-rich. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But lightly cooking the broccoli helps to break down the compounds that inhibit iodine absorption. And some of the ingredients that we're going to be using here today are rich in iodine, and that's an important thing. So it's a good thing to break down the compounds that inhibit their absorption in our bodies. And then finally, of course, like I said, cooked broccoli just tastes great. So we're not going to overcook it. We're just going to cook it to fork tender. So at this point, I will take my hot steaming pot, oven it. You can see the steam coming off. I just have a simple steamer in there, which is really very inexpensive. a great kitchen tool to have if you're doing lots of steaming. Hopefully you are, because it's one of the healthiest ways to cook vegetables, and one that preserves the maximum nutrients in them. So you want to heat the water up first if you can, because then you can really control the amount of time that a vegetable is in the pot for. So I'm going to put that back on, turn it on to high. It's not too hot. Cover it up. And I'm going to put my timer on for 3 minutes, just to, so I seriously don't need much time. And I will check and see if it's fork tender at that point. We want it to be bright, vibrant green. That's what we're looking for. So we'll let that steam away. But in the meantime, I want to share this important tip with you to maximize health benefits. You may have read this, you may have heard this. Dr. Greger wrote about it in his book, How Not to Die, and it has become quite well talked about. But it's worth mentioning again because it's such a big deal and a good tip. The responsible component for many of the benefits of cruciferous vegetables across the board is sulforaphane. And that is a compound that is found almost exclusively in cruciferous vegetables, which is one of the reasons why those vegetables in particular are so good for us. But sulforaphane requires the mixing with the enzyme myrosinase. And that enzyme is also naturally found in cruciferous vegetables. But the sulforaphane needs to mix with the enzyme to be activated. And that happens when the vegetable is chopped or chewed. But then here's the key point. Myrosinase is inactivated by cooking. So if you simply are chopping up your broccoli and putting it right into your pot to cook, then you may be losing much of that important sulforaphane action. So there are two ways that you can prevent this. One is to chop up your vegetable, and this applies to cauliflower, broccoli, all of the cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, and so on. And you can wait 45 minutes before cooking them. This gives the sulforaphane the time that it needs to develop, and once it's developed, it's heat resistant, so you can go ahead and cook it. Or you can add a bit of fresh cruciferous vegetable because it will still contain the enzyme, and that will work to produce sulforaphane once the food is being digested in your body, since the precursor is also resistant to heat and will still be in the cooked vegetable. So lots of sciencey words there, but at the crux of it is either to make sure you get the most nutritional benefit, and it's a big benefit, either chop and let it sit, but it is 45 minutes. And if you're in a rush to get to dinner on the table, who wants to wait that time? If you have that luxury, that's great. That's one way to do it, which is how I did it today. If not, then make sure you add a little bit of raw cruciferous to your dish at the end. And we'll come back to that. I'm going to show you some examples and some ideas around that. Okay, so the broccoli, the pot steaming away, is nice and bright green. I poked it with my knife again, and it's nice and soft. It's exactly how I want it. So I'm just going to take it out. You do want to eat this right away, and take it out of the heat right away. Don't let it sit on the stove, obviously, because that's going to end up allowing it to continue to steam. So we want to get it out away from the heat. If you're not going to, like if you want to use this in a salad of some kind and you don't want it to cook any further, of course you can rinse it with cold water. But as a side dish for dinner, this is a great thing too. This is you can just serve it hot like this. And we've got some beautiful, beautiful steamed broccoli. To boost the nutrition in this dish even more, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of roasted sesame seeds, which are really lovely nutty flavor. So one, they taste great. Two, they're really high in calcium and iodine. And as I mentioned, iodine is is a really good thing to get into our diet, because it's something that we don't, especially if we're not using a lot of iodized salt, we're not getting a lot of it into our diets these days. And as a result, a lot of iodine deficiencies are popping up. And iodine is really important. It's crucial for proper thyroid function. And thyroid, your thyroid is the thing that controls your metabolism and how your body uses energy. So it's really, really important. The other thing that has some iodine in it that we're going to add is a few dulse flakes. And these will provide a little bit of salt. It's a seaweed. They're just like they're little flakes. And I love adding these because they're really, really mineral rich. And they're going to add a little bit of salty flavor, but not too much. And they just look really pretty as well. So it looks almost peppery. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just squeeze a little bit of lemon juice onto the broccoli. You don't want to do this too far in advance of serving it, because it will, the citrus will make it go brown if you let it sit for a while. So you want to do that just before you're serving it or eating it to maintain the beautiful, bright, vibrant green color that you have. One of the reasons for adding the lemon juice is, of course, that the citrus helps us to absorb even more of the iron and the calcium, some of the minerals that are in the broccoli. So that's sort of reasons for adding all of these things to this dish. But honestly, the one reason that is good enough is that it tastes really good. And as you can see, I mean, you didn't see me chop up the broccoli, but it really does not take very long. This is a really great side dish to add to almost anything. I use it with pasta. I use it with casseroles. I sometimes cook these up and put them in salads, or, with a nut loaf or enchiladas or anything like that. So side dish number 1, cruciferous vegetables, steamed, super healthy, absolutely delicious. Okay, let's talk, before we move on to the second side dish, let's talk a little bit about bloating and gas, because this is a big thing. When I talk to people about the importance of eating cruciferous vegetables, I often hear, but they really make me gassy. I get bloated and I really can't eat them. And so I really wanted to talk a little bit about this and some strategies for preparing the foods or dealing with that, and also talk about why. So why do you get bloated and gassy sometimes when you eat cruciferous vegetables? The high levels of sulfur and fiber, as I talked about earlier, these are the things that are two of the things that are so protective about cruciferous vegetables, are also the reason that these vegetables can be difficult to process and often cause people gas and bloating. So there are lots of ways that you can reduce these side effects. One of them is to lightly steam or saute or roast your vegetables, as we have done with this broccoli side dish. When you cook cruciferous vegetables even lightly, it helps to break them down and it makes it easier for you to digest and causes less gas and bloating. So I personally don't like eating large amounts of broccoli or cauliflower or cabbage, even sometimes maybe a little bit of cabbage, but I don't like eating a lot of those vegetables raw in large quantities because I do find it makes me uncomfortable. So this is lightly steaming them helps you to digest them better. It helps you to absorb their nutrients better. And so that's one way to do it: steam, saute, roast. The second thing you can do is ferment your veggies. This is again a way to start unlocking their nutrients. Examples would be sauerkraut or kimchi, fermented vegetables, as we talked about in the third session of our Healthy Gut series. Another thing you can do is juice them. If you're making juices, vegetable juices, they are juicing them, processing them that way also helps to make their nutrients more available and a little bit more digestible. Or a smoothie, which I prefer because then you're still getting the fiber. I'm going to share I'm not going to make it today, but I am going to share a recipe using red cabbage. So if you're feeling adventurous, do try it out. It actually is really delicious. You'd never know there's cabbage in it. But it is a really, really nice thing, nice way to get some cruciferous vegetables into your day. And then, of course, chewing thoroughly. So many of us don't. I'm totally guilty of that. I often have to remind myself to slow down and chew and chew and chew, and digestion starts in your mouth. So if you're a really fast eater and you tend to be talking and doing other things while you're eating, and you're getting that gas and bloating with cruciferous vegetables or anything, try slowing down and making sure you're chewing your food. That is really, it seems like such a almost silly thing to mention, but it actually makes a big difference for a lot of people. And then, of course, if you're really struggling, still really struggling, digestive enzymes are something that can help some people. So that's an option to think about as well. Okay, recipe number 2. We are going to do roasted cauliflower. So we have sauteed. Now we're going to roast cauliflower. And I have to give credit where credit is due. This is a Drina Burton recipe. I honestly don't, I know the original was hers. I don't remember. I think I pretty much make it the same way as she always has, but I've added a few of my own little tweaks and touches along the way. So, but she is just Drina, as if you've been watching this channel, you know, or in my classes, I mention her all the time. She's one of my very favorite plant-based chefs and recipe developer. And she came up with this brilliant recipe to make roasted cauliflower into a gourmet dish. So I have already roasted, done the first roast on this cauliflower just to save a bit of time. So you might be able to see it's quite, it's been roasting for about 15 minutes. So it still is, it's not bad. I mean, you certainly could eat it like this if you wanted to, but we are going to add something a little bit extra, a little bit special, and make it absolutely delicious. And that is equal parts almond flour and nutritional yeast. And you just roast with a little bit of salt and pepper at first for about 10 or 15 minutes, 400 degrees. And then you sprinkle this mixture over them and roast them for another 10 minutes or so. Or, you know, check them and see if they're already, I might just check mine after 5 because these are already looking a little bit, feeling a little bit, it might be because I took them out of the oven to do this video, but they're already looking a little bit, you know, they're getting as soft as I want them to be is what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm going to put these, sneak these back in the oven here, and I will check those after 5 minutes. Cauliflower is a great source of fiber, of course, and it has some specific antioxidants in it that's quite rich in, that have been shown to help slow the growth of cancer. It's really known for its anti-inflammatory effects. So despite the fact that I'm always saying, eat your rainbow, get colorful vegetables, cauliflower is kind of one of the exceptions. It's a white vegetable, but it is so, so powerful. So like I said, we pre-roasted it for about 15 minutes, tossed it with a bit of salt and pepper, and then we tossed it with an equal amounts of almond flour and nutritional yeast. And the reason that we added those things is not just because it's absolutely delicious, but nutritional yeast is a great source of vitamin B, or B vitamins in general, has B12 in it as well. Almond flour contains is really high in calcium, and it also is, of course, a fat soluble, or it has some whole fats in it that help you to absorb the fat soluble nutrients, just like with the sesame seeds and the broccoli. So one of the, you know, cruciferous vegetables in general are really high in vitamin K. So that's one of the fat soluble vitamins that you want to encourage the absorption of. And then I am going to just dress this up, and I'll share a picture with you at the end, but I'm going to dress it up using one of my really most favorite super easy nutrition hacks that I use really regularly. And that is, especially with this method, like I said, just revisiting the idea that you want to add a little bit of raw to your cooked cruciferous if you haven't let it sit and think for 45 minutes, which I almost never do. So I always have some purple cabbage on hand, or I always have pretty much a variety of cruciferous vegetables available. And what I will do, it's super pretty too, is just add a few shavings of cruciferous vegetable to the top of the dish. And today, spring has sprung here in Powell River, and my herbs are coming up. And so I've got some parsley in my garden. So I'm also going to add a little bit of parsley to my dish on the top. Because we've got white cauliflower, it's really nice to fancy it up with some color, some green, some purple. And this side dish goes really well with, again, so many things. The broccoli, I tend to make that and eat it right away. The cauliflower, on the other hand, I actually really like it cool as well. So I will make a big sheet pan of that and use it as leftovers. It's great in wraps. It's a really nice side dish to have with an Indian dinner. I've often made that. And if I'm doing that, then I might even add some, a tablespoon or a teaspoon of curry powder to the nutritional yeast mixture, because that makes it even more, of course, nutritious. And it's got the curry flavor. I also have some oregano, fresh oregano. And oregano, I've talked about this, I think, a number of times, but oregano is one of the most antioxidant-rich herbs out there. It can really, really boost your antioxidant intake for the day. So I'm going to add just a little sprinkling of all of these things to the top of my cauliflower dish when it's ready. I might even add a little sprinkling of lemon juice, or you can also use lime juice for these, either dish. I think that when you are trying to reduce the salt in your diet, which most of us should probably be doing whether or not we have related health issues, adding a little bit of citrus can be extremely helpful. It just picks up all the flavors, it brightens everything up, and can really just really make a dish that much more interesting just by adding a little sprinkle at the end of the cooking process. So I've got my cauliflower is almost ready to come out of the oven. So I will share the picture of it with you at the end of all of this. And I hope that you found this useful. I hope you found it interesting and inspiring. And I hope you get that cauliflower and broccoli out of your fridge and onto your dinner plate tonight. Please feel welcome to join my newsletter list, and that is where you will get all the recipes. Check out my blog, check out the links and added information that I'm going to share in the show notes. Subscribe and like, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining me.